Today we're going to be discussing how we're going to classify triangles. When we're classifying triangles, we can classify them according to two different ways, and those are the sides and the angles of the triangle. So let's go ahead and review our angles. If we draw an angle that it is a perfect 90 degrees with our little symbol there, then we know that is a right angle. If we draw an angle that is less than 90 degrees, we want to go less than 90 degrees, that is an acute angle. I think of that one like it's cute, it's little. And the last one is obtuse. Obtuse angles are greater than 90 degrees. So those are the angles we need to review. So let's start diving into how we're going to classify these triangles. We are going to classify them by side first. You're going to be on the left side of your note page. Let's look at this triangle first. Remember, we're focusing on the sides. So as you can see by our little lines, we have 1, 2, 3 congruent sides. 3 congruent sides. Make sure you're writing this in your notes. Remember to pause whenever you need to. 3 congruent sides is going to be an equilateral triangle. So equilateral triangle. You should see the word kind of equal in that word. Equilateral, 3 congruent sides. Remember, we're focusing on sides first. So the equilateral triangle is the one with 3 congruent sides. That means that all of its sides are equal. Let's move on to your second triangle there. It looks like this. As you can see, we have 2 of them are equal, but this third one is not equal. So if we have 2 congruent sides, make sure you're writing this in your notes. 2 congruent sides is an isosceles triangle. Make sure you are spelling this correctly in your notes. 2 congruent sides is an isosceles triangle. Remember, we're focused on sides first. We are not focused on those angle measurements quite yet. So our 2 congruent sides are isosceles. Let's look at our third one. As you can see on this one, none of our sides are congruent. I did cut off the measurements, but if you look at the measurements of our angles, if none of the angles are congruent, that means none of our sides are congruent. So we could say 1 line on this one, 2 lines on this one, and 3 lines on that one. None of the sides are congruent. 0 congruent sides. And if you have 0 congruent sides, make sure you're writing that in. It is a scalene triangle. A scalene triangle has 0 congruent sides. Now let's dive in and start classifying our triangles by the types of angles it has. So let's take a look at this one first. So this triangle here, I want you to notice it has 1, 2, 3 small little acute angles. 3 acute angles. So if a triangle has 3 acute angles, it is called an acute triangle. So if all of its angles are under 90 degrees, 3 acute angles, then it is called an acute triangle. Now, all the angles don't have to be the same. You know, I could have an acute triangle that looks, maybe not like that, like this. It's still acute, even though not all of its angles are the same. So they can be different. They just have to all be under 90 degrees. Let's look at this next one. So this one actually has a mistake in it. For this one, we need to go ahead and cross this one out. And we're going to redraw our triangle just like this, so it has a right angle on the side. Go ahead, cross that out and redraw it so it has one right angle. And if there's at least one right angle, it is a right triangle, because it has one right angle. Now, a triangle can't have more than one right angle. If there were 2 right angles, it wouldn't be a triangle. But it has to have one right angle to be a right triangle. Let's take a look at that last one. This one also needs to be crossed out. My goodness, we need to fix our notes today. And you're going to draw an obtuse triangle. So one line straight and then one line kind of back and connect them. This angle here is an obtuse angle. So if a triangle has one obtuse angle, then it's going to be an obtuse triangle. Let's review those classifying triangles by their angles. If it has 3 acute angles, it is an acute triangle. If it has 1 right angle, it is a right triangle. And if it has 1 obtuse angle, it is an obtuse triangle. You're going to answer some questions here in just a second to make sure you understood your notes before we move on. All right, let's talk about length of sides, angle measurement, and we're going to fill in our diagram here. Let's do the first one together. We need a triangle that is acute and scalene. So when we're going to draw an acute and scalene triangle, we want to aim for one that all the angles are under 90 degrees, but none of the sides are the same. So I might draw a triangle that looks a little bit like that. And I'm going to go ahead and mark it so I'm really clear. This is one, this is one, this is one. So none of those angles or sides are the same. That's my acute scalene triangle. I want you to go ahead and draw an obtuse scalene triangle. Your obtuse scalene triangle should look something like this. Make sure, oops, that's not a very straight line there. Make sure you go ahead and mark your sides to show me that all 3 are totally different. And there is your obtuse scalene triangle. Now let's do an acute isosceles. Acute isosceles. This one's a little bit easier. You can simply do it like this and know that these 2 are the same and this one is different. And that is an acute isosceles. And last but not least, let's do an obtuse isosceles. Go ahead and draw it. So for this one, I'm drawing it like this. And as you can see, I've got these that are the same and this one that is not, and that obtuse angle is right there. I hope you were able to draw those pretty easily. Go ahead and get these notes glued into your notebook, and we can get started on our classwork.